I'm Tom from Waterwise Botanicals, and I thought it might be interesting to you to view a cooking demonstration. So what are we cooking up? We're actually cooking up some really important information on perhaps fire safety for your home. And I just thought I'd kind of show you some of the contrasts and differences in plant materials that are available for your landscape that may or may not be being recommended, and what you might be able to do to help protect your land, property, and perhaps even your house from moving fire. So we're in July. July is not even deep into our fire danger season, because in California, our rains usually stop in about March. And then we often don't get a drop of rain again, going all the way into October. So you can imagine how dry the natural brush gets. And the natural brush is made up of two parts. One part is the living shrubs that are part of the chaparral ecology, and the other part is the dead branches, leaves, stems that are all mixed in. It's actually a really explosive combination. And so for our first recipe today, I thought that I would show you how coyote bush, a California native, is after it's completely dried. Would be on a branch that, is laying on the ground and certainly exposed to the danger of fire. And so we'll see how this goes. One match, one conflagration. That's all it takes. And you can be looking at devastating, destructive fires that can damage hundreds of homes. That's coyote bush, one dry branch laying on the ground. Okay, now the next one, this is a living branch of sage in the summertime out of the chaparral. It's not dead. It's green, living plant. Let's put that on the stove and see how that does. Well, as you can see, it burns very well also. Very combustible, quite dangerous. Now, let's take a look at a succulent plant that has been laying on the ground for 6 months. This is one of the plants in our Hot Shots line, and this is called elephant's food bush. And we'll just set that in the fire for a little while. Now you can see that everything else is burning and being consumed, but this elephant's food bush has had no connection to water, no roots, no soil, no nothing for about 3 months. And you can see that the sage is burning all up. And you can see that the succulent, there's a little bit of melting, but there's no flame. It's not burning. Now underneath these flames, I've also put some of the wood that's part of the chaparral environment. And so that becomes very flammable also as soon as it's brought up to temperature. But I also thought I'd put in a piece of wood that's out of our succulents in our Hot Shots group of plants that are selected for fire safety. So we're going to look at this stem a couple of times. This stem is from Crassula undulata, called the ripple jade. And so I took that off of a plant that we have growing here in the nursery. And as you watch this woody wood, which is sage wood and other wood from the brush and chaparral, as that starts getting hot and igniting, we're going to just keep checking up on this succulent stem and see how that does in the heat and the fire. While we're waiting, let's look at a few other varieties. Okay, we already did some of this wispy sage. Put a little more on. Here's another kind of sage that's more leafy. This also is right out of there. Let's see how that goes. And this is dry sage. So this would have been debris that was underneath the brush and laying down and broken. And you can see how explosive that is. But let's get a branch of the green sage and see how that goes. Once you have fire going under there, Everything is pretty volatile. So we started it out with dry coyote bush that was laying on the ground, just dead branches just laying on the ground. Let's put on some green coyote bush cut in July out of some chaparral environment. That green is burning pretty good. Okay, now let's look at buckwheat, another California native, and see how that performs. Now remember, the whole time we have that stem of jade plants in underneath. So this is live green California buckwheat, the shrub that grows to be 5 to 6 feet tall. These are all different chaparral brush plants right out of the environment. And you can see it as soon as they come up to temperature. Okay. Let's try another. This is the native Southern California manzanita. Grows as a small tree or a large shrub. And you're going to see that as we are filming this, everything gets burnt. Everything goes down. And this isn't even near the massive heat that builds up in a brush fire. But it's getting pretty hot. So now you can see some of the reason why this is such a volatile situation. When we get into our dry season and wildfire gets going, all of these different native shrubs join to become fuel, hot, flammable fuel. Now underneath, the dead wood or the dry wood and even green wood of those same chaparral plants has completely caught on fire, and it's going to be burning down to coals. So let's see how that looks. Now, I'm sure that we all kind of had an awareness that this is what it's like, because we see the footage, where mountainsides are burning up, the airplanes are dropping retardant, and they're doing everything they can to put the fire out, and nothing really helps to put it out. They can maybe stop the progress sometimes, but it's almost impossible to put out. So now I thought you'd like to see, this is elephant's food bush. This is one of the candidates of our group of plants that we call the Hot Shots Fireproof collection. And this particular one is taken from a plant that has had not a drop of water, not irrigation, not watering, nothing, since the rains that were finished here in March. Now I can tell you this is mighty hot inside. Let's throw that on there and see how that burns. Let's try another variety. This is Blue Towers Blue Pickle Senecio. Put that on the fire. And I can hear some bubbling sounds like we're making soup. But as you can see, the leaves might melt, they might char, but they don't burn. And that's because succulent plants have water in their leaves. It's a natural, wet fire retardant. Instead of hosing down the shrubbery from the outside, your shrubbery is already hosed down from the inside. So the only smoke here is from the chaparral caught in the middle. But if you look at that, yes, there's some charring, but it doesn't burn. It does not catch on fire. Keep putting it back in. It does not catch on fire. I can hear it steaming. Let's look at the Senecio. Okay, that was in the hot coals down below for quite a while. All it looks is like we cooked green beans or something. No fire. You can't make that burn. This is a fireproof plant. Fireproof simply meaning that the plant won't burn. Now, all of these other sticks that were in here, which were gathered from the floor of the native chaparral, they are turning into hot red coals. Let's see how our stem of the jade is doing. Not a speck of smoke, not a speck of flames, Nothing. And I guarantee you could leave that in there until there's no coals left. It's not going to burn. Let's look at some other varieties in our collection of hot shots. Now this is a properly watered piece, so this has gotten adequate water, and which means maybe once or twice a month during the hottest part of summer, we throw that in the hot coals. I hear some steaming sounds. Flames and hot coals all around. But it won't light on fire. Now you saw how the other stuff lit on fire. One match. Poof. Let's look at another variety. The succulent we call cotyledon chalk fingers. Now cotyledon chalk fingers is one of our varieties that's more cold hardy. So a big drift of this could help protect your property even in colder climates like the San Fernando Valley, San Joaquin Valley, all the way up to Sacramento, coastal northern California. It can't take hard, long freeze, but that covers a lot of area right there. So I'm going to throw that in the hot coals. Julie, would you take a look in close and just see how hot that is?
It's very hot.
And if you're in really cold country, then we have the thornless prickly pear, which makes beautiful, dense, compact hedges. And it's hardy down to single digits. So if you live in Utah and you want to create a strong, hefty border around your property, a lot of times in the general direction that usually fire comes from, you might get a lot of protection out of that, or even closer to your home. Let's take a look at long fingers here that's been in the flames and right on top of the hot red coals. No smoke, no steam, no lighting, no fire. Okay, now we've pretty much gone through most of our samples. Let's take just a couple more. We have a couple of our varieties of the very large growing elephant's food bushes. These can grow to be an 8-foot protective hedge, 8 to 10 feet tall. So I'm putting that in there, right in the hot coals on top of the hot fire. And it's becoming intensely hot in there because of the red hot coals. It's even hotter than when we first started out in the beginning. If I were to put one of those pieces of native branch in there right now, it would just explode.
That flame's coming from behind.
I hear some steaming, but we're going to pull these out in a minute. Now, some people might say, oh, but he's not leaving them in long enough. Well, I could leave them in a very long time, and basically, they just kind of melt into oblivion. They never actually ever turn into a flaming piece of materia. We've tested it over and over. So let's take this out now. It's been on top of the hot flames, the hot coals. Looks like we're roasting some kind of a vegetarian dish. And now I'll bring it out. No smoke, no flames, no ignition. That was Portulacaria afra olifant. Beautiful, tall, big hedges it can grow into. And these, when they're established, can go on way reduced watering. Okay, same thing here. This is right on top of the hot coals. You go, well, look, there's some blackness on it. Yeah, there's blackness, but there's no fire. There's not even steam. Nothing. No ignition. Now, just as an illustration again, this is a succulent, ripple jade, and this was laying on the ground for 2 months. No water supply, no roots, laying on the ground for 2 months. Show me any other California native that you could find a branch that's been laying on the ground for 2 months, and you could drop right in the flames like that and have it not even barely steam. It's not flammable. It won't burn. Now, Julie, if you can come look in closely, look at what's happened to all the wood. These are 2 and 3 inch thick pieces. Nothing but hot, burning red coals. That's all that's left. Oh, but we had a piece of succulent stem in there. Remember this from the very beginning? This is the ripple jade stem. It's been in there the entire time. It's a little charred on the outside, but never lit, never burned, isn't even smoking, isn't even steaming. And if you don't think that that fire in there is still hot, watch this. This is serious stuff. And I hope that what you've learned today has helped you to know that you can come and do a great deal of your landscaping, have it be very beautiful, very low water use, and very fire safe to help out in this dangerous fire climate and environment that we live in much of the West. And I'm Tom for WaterwiseBotanicals.com.